Well, hello there, my twisted friends. Gather round, for I have a tale that's bound to make you squirm in your seats. You see, our little story tonight is titled, Am I the Asshole for Not Forgiving My Dad After What He Said? Now, isn't that a deliciously intriguing question? Family, oh family. Such a complicated web of love, hate, and betrayal. And forgiveness. That's a tricky little beast, isn't it? It dances on the edge of sanity, teetering between mercy and madness. So strap yourselves in, my dear viewers, as we dive into the murky waters of familial discord. Will our protagonist find solace in forgiveness, or will the wounds run too deep, festering like a nasty little secret? Let's find out, shall we? Am I the a-hole for not forgiving my dad for what he said? My dad, 45M, is really into cars. His dad, my grandpa, is also into cars. My grandpa used to work in a mechanic shop, and my dad learned to work on cars with him. They can talk for hours about different car models and engines and tell stories about cars they've worked on. I, 17M, am not really into them. My dad tried to get me into fixing up cars with him, but it just doesn't click with me. I know basic stuff like how to change a tire or oil and how to jumpstart a battery because he taught me, and I'm glad for it. But talking about cars and working on them for fun, I'm just not into. I always thought my dad was okay with me not being a car guy. 5 months ago, we got these new neighbors that moved next door. It's a married couple, and their nephew Mason, 16M, lives with them. Mason and I go to school together. At first, I helped show him around school until he got comfortable and made his own friends. He and I talk still, but we don't hang out. Mason is like my dad and grandpa. He's obsessed with talking about cars and has a whole list of cars he wants to drive and own one day. He would come over with his aunt and uncle, and a lot of times Mason and his uncle would hang out with my dad in the garage. Sometimes I'd be there too, but usually it's just them. My dad usually works on his project car in the garage every other weekend for a couple hours. For Father's Day this year, he said he wanted to be able to work on his car all day uninterrupted, which my mom agreed to. Whenever he works on his car, he leaves the garage door open. Mason has been coming by when my dad works on it for the past couple months, and he talks to my dad and sometimes helps him out with smaller stuff related to the car. I don't really care. My dad does other stuff with me. But on Sunday, I went to go ask him something when he was in the garage with Mason. The door from the house to the garage was open, and him and Mason were talking. I was waiting by the door for a chance to speak because I didn't want to interrupt their conversation. My dad was praising Mason for whatever he did. Mason said he had done that with his dad, and my dad told Mason his dad would be proud of him. Then he said, Mason is the kind of son that he wanted to have. I don't know why, but that really fucking hurt to hear. I never thought that me not being into cars was an issue for my dad. I knew he still loved me, but I guess it's not enough. I didn't say anything and just went back to my room. He doesn't know that I know what he said. I've been ignoring him since then. I still answer him when he asks me questions or tells me to do something, but I just don't want to talk to him just because anymore. Him and my mom, 43F, have asked me if something is wrong, but I lie and say no. I thought they would just let it go, but a few days ago, I messed up and told my older sister, 19F, what happened because she kept asking, and now she's not talking to my dad either, and she's being a lot meaner to him about it. But I made her promise not to tell anyone the reason, so she's keeping her word. It's really tense in our house right now. My parents keep asking us why we're mad at our dad, but neither of us are answering and IDK. I feel like maybe I should just let it go and go back to the way things were. I really don't want to, though, when my dad is disappointed in who I am. Am I the asshole if I don't forgive my dad? Comments. Beck, 2010. Dad, I get that you're disappointed that I'm not into cars like you and Grandpa. It's just not my thing, but I do appreciate how you taught me the basics. But when I went to the garage to see you on Father's Day, I heard you tell Mason that he was the kind of son you wanted, wished you had. Do you have any idea how hurtful that is? On Father's Day, I got to hear my dad tell someone else that they were the type of kid he wanted. So, yeah, I'm hurt. You said it so casually, and on Father's Day, not the a-hole. The father, a man so wrapped up in his own world of cars that he's forgotten the delicate machinery of his own son's heart. Let's dissect this, shall we? Your father, despite all his good intentions, made a blunder of monumental proportions. Praising Mason as the kind of son he wanted? That's a slap in the face, an unintentional, hopefully, but deeply wounding comment. It's one thing to share interests with someone. It's another to make your own child feel inadequate because they don't share those interests. Now, let's get to the real issue. You need to have a serious conversation with your father. Yes, that's right. It's time to confront him. It's not about picking a fight, but about laying down the emotional cards on the table. Tell him what you heard and how it made you feel. Make him understand the weight of his words and how they've affected you. He needs to see beyond the cars and into the person you are, to appreciate you for who you are, not just for what you might lack in common with him. But here's the twist in the plot. Don't let this anger fester forever. Anger is like a slow-acting poison. It corrodes your spirit, clouds your judgment, and turns your heart into a battlefield. Holding on to it gives your father's careless words more power than they deserve. Address the issue head-on, seek understanding, and then let it go. It's not about forgiving and forgetting instantly, but about releasing the hold this hurt has on you. Life's too short to carry such heavy baggage. Confront him, seek clarity, and then choose to move forward. You deserve to live without the shadow of someone else's thoughtless words hanging over you. Stand up for yourself, but don't let this define you. Be the bigger person, not because he deserves it, but because you do. So, I guess my post was put up on TikTok, and my inbox was flooded with a bunch of new comments and DMs. There's too many to read, but thank you everyone for telling me that I'm not wrong for not wanting to forgive my dad, because it still hurts knowing he said that, regardless of why he said it. I got a lot of questions, but I'll answer two important ones. My dad did ask to be left alone to work on his car, but it's not because he didn't want to spend Father's Day with us. We had a special breakfast for him, and we gave him his gifts in the morning. The incident happened in the late afternoon. My mom usually wants to be left alone to work on her art projects or read one of her books on Mother's Day, too. It's not that they don't want to spend the day with us. They just like to be able to focus on their hobbies without having to worry about household or family duties for a few hours. It's normal in my family for my mom and dad to give each other breaks or a day off sometimes. Another thing is my dad didn't invite Mason to work on the car with him. He did tell Mason a while back that if the garage door is open, then Mason is free to walk in and chat. That's what Mason usually does. My dad doesn't talk to him outside of when Mason comes over by himself or with his aunt and uncle. I don't think my dad even has Mason's number. They're not really close. They just both like cars. I know most people told me to tell my mom or my dad or both about what I heard. I was kind of hoping the tension would go away and just be forgotten, which I know is dumb and not realistic. But I really didn't want to have that awkward conversation, so I just kept quiet. Things got really bad. My sister and I were still mostly ignoring our dad. My mom would keep asking us a bunch of questions and guessing reasons why we were mad. I thought she gave up. But earlier today she said we were going to have a family game night tonight, which we never really do. I really didn't feel like doing that, but I was going to sit there and just deal with it. But my sister told my mom we won't be joining if Dad is there. My mom asked why, but my sister just said he knows what he did. So my mom went to talk to our dad, and like an hour later she made us all sit down in the living room to talk. My dad was mad now. He told us that we need to say whatever is on our minds because now our mom is asking if we caught him cheating on her or something. She was running out of theories for why we were mad. TBF, she guessed it right on the second day, asking if he had said something to make me mad or upset. But I lied and said no at the time. She said she knows it has something to do with me because I was mad at him first. So I finally told her what I overheard my dad say. My mom was shocked, and my dad immediately denied it, which really sucked. Because if he thought it and said it out loud, he could at least also have the balls to admit it. But he didn't. He kept saying he didn't say that. But I told him I know what I heard. He tried to lie and say that what he said was that Mason's dad would be proud of him. That's true. And that if Mason was his son, he'd be proud of the kind of person he was. That's a lie. He didn't say that. My sister got mad and told him to stop gaslighting me. Then they argued for a couple mins until my mom stopped them. My mom asked me if I was sure of what I heard, and I said yes. I told her exactly what he said to Mason. Your dad would be proud of you. I know I would be. You're exactly the kind of son I wanted to have. I know that because I keep hearing my dad's voice saying it over and over in my head. I've been hearing it whenever I look at him since that day. And my mom turned to my dad and started yelling at him for saying that. So my dad finally admitted it, but said that I misunderstood him. He says he was just trying to make Mason feel better because Mason was sad, and kept talking about his dad that died, because it was Father's Day. My dad wasn't trying to put me down or say I was a disappointment to him. He said he was sorry and tried to hug me, but I was honestly mad that he denied it at first, so I didn't let him. My mom didn't accept his reasoning either. She said that Mason, his aunt, and uncle aren't invited anymore, and that we're just going to be neighbors from now on. And that's it. I feel bad because they didn't do anything wrong. But my mom kept going and telling my dad that he needs to stop spending so much time on his stupid car and start paying more attention to his family. He really doesn't spend a lot of time on it. Maybe like 2 days out of the month for 3 to 4 hours. I think she was just really mad at him, which is what I was worried about. So, my dad shouted that he'll just get rid of the car then since everyone suddenly has a problem with his hobby. He left to my uncle's house, his brother after that, and I don't think he's coming back tonight. I feel really bad. I should have just let it go. I really want to, but I can't. If he hadn't tried to lie and just said sorry, maybe I would have accepted his apology, and this would be done. I'm not even really mad anymore. I just feel like a failure. I wish I could have just been more into cars. Then this whole thing would have never happened. Sorry, it's not a happy update, but a lot of people were asking for one. I hope he comes back home soon. Comments. Pride of Cape Town, OP. If you're reading this, I'm sorry your dad is a complete piece of crap. And tell your mom this really isn't about the car or the amount of time your dad spends on the car. It's about what your dad really thinks of you. His reaction was to deny, lie, manipulate, minimize. I'm guessing that apology was the complete opposite of truly sorry or remorseful. Then pout and run away instead of dealing with what he did to you. Not just on Father's Day, but during after this family meeting. I'm sorry you have to go through this. Your asshole dad doesn't deserve forgiveness. Oh boy, what a whirlwind of emotions and revelations. Let's break this down and see if we can find some clarity amidst the chaos. First of all, it's clear that your father's words cut you deeply, and rightfully so. Hearing him deny what he said initially only twisted the knife further. It's not just about what was said, but the betrayal of trust when he tried to deny it. That's a tough pill to swallow. You did the right thing by finally confronting the issue. It's painful, but necessary. Ignoring it wouldn't have made the hurt go away. It would have just festered and grown. And look at the result. Your family is now aware of the underlying issue. Communication, as awkward and painful as it might be, is the first step toward healing. Your mom's reaction, while intense, shows that she cares deeply about you and your sister. She sees the hurt and is trying to protect you, even if her methods might seem a bit over the top. The decision to cut off Mason and his family might feel unfair, but it's coming from a place of wanting to shield you from further pain. Your dad, on the other hand, seems to be caught in his own web of guilt and defensiveness. His initial denial and later admission show that he's struggling to come to terms with his own actions. It's clear he didn't mean to hurt you, but his failure to own up to his words immediately only made things worse. Now, here's the hard part. You need to have a real, honest conversation with your dad. Not in the heat of the moment, but when things have calmed down. Explain to him exactly how his words made you feel. Let him know that it's not just about the cars, but about feeling valued and loved for who you are. Make him understand that his actions and words have consequences. At the same time, don't carry this anger forever. Holding on to it will only continue to hurt you. Find a way to forgive, not for his sake, but for yours. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting or excusing what happened. It means letting go of the resentment that's weighing you down. And remember, you're not a failure. You don't need to be into cars to be a good son or a good person. Your worth isn't determined by your hobbies or interests. Your dad needs to see that, and maybe this confrontation will be a step in that direction. It's a messy, painful situation, but it's also an opportunity for growth and understanding. Hang in there. And don't be afraid to keep communicating. The road to healing might be bumpy, but it's worth the journey. If you liked what you listened to, please like and subscribe.